Hello, YouTubers. It's Travis, and I have something very different for you now, and it's going to need a little bit of an introduction to explain it. I'm going to take you back in time to a young Travis who played Magic nearly 20 years ago, and a mechanic that existed in Magic back then and really doesn't anymore. So a long time ago, back when I was a young man in Wilmington, North Carolina, I had a group of friends that I played Magic with, and we played constructed decks against each other. And I met another dude at work who had a group of friends who played Magic. We were like, let's take these two groups of friends and go play Magic together, and it'll be fun. So we did that, but it wasn't, because my group of friends had all of these very competitive decks, and this other group of friends, Gene's friends, had all of these kind of meme decks, and we just raffle stomped them, and it wasn't fun. But they were a nice group of people. We were a nice group of people. We wanted to play Magic together. So we got this idea that we'd do something a little different. We went to the local game store, and at the time you could buy starter decks. They don't make those anymore, but that was a starter deck where you got like 3 boosters worth of cards and some basic lands. So each of us picked out a starter deck that we wanted, and then 2 booster packs. We made a deck out of that, and then we played for Ante. What's Ante? Ante is when you would take the top card of your deck and set it aside, and then the winner of the match would get both of the Ante cards. So they'd get to keep their own card, and they'd take a card from your deck. It might be a random one. You don't know what it would be. So that's kind of the memory that I had in my head, and I wanted to sort of recreate that sort of experience with another group of people. Over time, I discovered as I kind of worked out the ideas of how this would work that I couldn't really do it and participate in it. It would take someone who was entirely organizing it. So I took on that role and then recruited stream viewers from my chat to play in this first inaugural Ante League. So here's what's going on and what they're doing. There are 6 participants. Each of them got 1 booster from each of the sets that are in Standard. So they got Zendikar Rising, Strixhaven, Kaldheim, Innistrad Midnight Hunt, Innistrad Crimson Vow, and apparently one other set that I'm forgetting, Adventures in Forgotten Realms. They also got 6 of each basic land. That's it. There are no more basic lands. That's important because you can lose your basic lands to Ante, and that's kind of a problem if you're a blue-red deck and you've only got 4 mountains left in your pool, right? So that's making the basic lands impactful. They then build decks out of that, and they're going to play round-robin games. So you could play against the same opponent, you might not. So what you're going to see is me commenting the first 3 matches of that. I just picked 3 of the matches that I thought were particularly good ones that I got recorded for you guys that we can show here. Next week, they're going to play another set of round-robin games, and then we're going to have a finals at the end where they're actually playing for prizes. I'm going to give 1,000 gems to the person who actually wins the tournament, and then 1,000 gems is like a raffle prize. So all of that explanation out of the way, that's what you're going to see is me commenting games, and it's a big deal who wins or loses because they're losing cards from their pool that they're going to try to later play in a tournament with. So like it's a really big deal to win or lose here. What I need from you is to let me know what you think of this content on YouTube. I need you to like, I need you to comment, I need you to subscribe if you dig this. If you don't dig it, let me know why. You can communicate that on Twitter. You can say something in the comments here. I'm at Semulin on Twitter if you'd like to follow. But if you like this sort of thing, let me know, because this is kind of a test to see if people are interested in watching this and if people are interested in playing it. Because I actually enjoyed organizing it more than I thought and commenting the games more than I thought. I have done Magic commentary in the past. I was perhaps a little rusty, but I'll get better. Anyway, enough preamble. I hope that you will enjoy this. Please let me know if you do. All right, here we go for round 1. We have Timber Tranel versus the Mist. I'll be doing the commentary. And when I see the cards played that are up for Ante, I'll talk to you about what they are. It's kind of a crucial creature in Timber's deck that's up for Ante, and it's a basic land from the Mist deck that's up for Ante, which may not sound like much, but remember, each of these players only has 6 of each basic. This is a big deal. Tranel's deck is nice and streamlined. Yeah, I can tell you what you win after you win it. Or you guys can communicate it if you want to. It doesn't really matter to me. All right, this is an opener for Tranel, which I'm digging. He's got a 2-drop. He's got a nice rare. He's got a grip full of good stuff. What he doesn't have is more black mana, which is actually pretty important to his deck. Because of the limitations on basics, there's a lot of players who had to run off-color basics to get their lands. The basic requirement Vexed was to make sure that having a basic land up for Ante means something. Okay, we've got a really good start from the Mist with 2-drop into ramp and color fixing. Now this Valkyrie is going to give the Orator flying and start letting Tranel get in for some damage. And we've got blocks established, but he's going to need black mana. I think if he hits it, he's in business. If this Valkyrie gets removed, we could be in trouble. You will see a lot more 3-color decks and janky mana bases in this than I think anywhere else. We can get some work done with Adeline too. I think that's her name. The cards are a little blurry for me, but I still recognize them all. The Baleful Mastery is going to hurt. Like, we may be at a spot where we need to consider blocking with the Orator. Maybe not, because then we get to play the Adeline and make the attack, but not hitting the black mana is really brutal here for Tranel. I still think it was a pretty good keep, but this is getting rough. I've got a little bit of a blip here, but quickly resolved. This is really going to depend on what Mist has available for options. And on hitting those swamps. There's an interesting strategy I might not have thought about. Because the Ante's coming from your main deck, do you just sideboard your bomb and bring it in for game 2 and 3? Maybe. There's still more play to this than initially what I thought. Irma Gerda Bergsterder. Still getting some beats going. Yeah, missing that land drop is kind of brutal here. This leaves us essentially without attacks. Well, you can still attack with Adeline because it's going to be a 4/4 Vigilant, but God, I wonder if I'm in Mist's seat if I just block this and trade the Burger Strider for it. Because, like, Timber's obviously struggling for mana. And we're really not. What do you think, chat? For the next one, should we look at it from Mist's perspective and kind of bounce back and forth? Ooh, a Silencer? A Silencer that actually triggers. My goodness. I wish they had the overlays so I could see what the classes were, but that was really, like, not used to Silencer triggering, even in Battle for Zendikar. And pulling it off here is particularly brutal for Tranel. God, those lands are just not cooperating. Tranel still looks cool, calm, and collected. Gotta hand it to him. Packmate, always a top-tier card, was a premium common. And we've got a slew of non-basics over there for the Mist, which is kind of tying his mana base together. Camera's frozen? No, his camera's not frozen. He's cool. But he is taking some attacks here. Okay, finally it unlocks. Is it too late? I am hopeful that it is not too late. I'd like to see a little bit of a game here. He's elected to go with the guest first, I think with the idea of we might want to sacrifice the blood token and try to get to some actual lands. Pretty passive attack. Okay, I was going to say, I would be sending with more stuff than this. Because if it's just the Bergstrider, Mist is actually going to give Tranel enough time to catch up. Yeah, the Aura can die into the Valkyrie and we can get some stuff going here. I think Tranel still has a shot despite like all of these mana problems. Oh yeah, you're right, you're right. I can't look at the graveyards. Or it cannot die into the Valkyrie. Yeah, it was exiled. This Swarm's going to hurt a little bit here. We're going to get a 2/2 flyer. And do we have anything smaller to bring back? Yeah, we've got the order from earlier. There we go. So we can potentially block a Burger Strider now. The Liara pool over there for Mist can turn into a copy of any of those creatures, provided that the werewolf stays flipped. I think that's what his oops was about earlier. It would not be crazy to flip that into Adrana's Silencer and kill the flyer. He's going to need to attack with more stuff. I think he had an opportunity to trade the Bergstrider for the Adeline earlier and maybe should have done it. This line signifies like maybe a combat trick to me, or maybe just I'm going to try to kill you. There we go. So on the line for Mist is a basic land, and on the line for Tranel is a Restless Bloodseeker. Okay, that's what Mist was seeing that I wasn't, is we can probably just kill them. Tranel's still sort of in this. Because the Outlaw can gain him a little bit of life. So the Outlaw gains him the life, and he's got enough blockers, and all of a sudden he's right back in business. Adeline does not have lifelink. I'm recognizing now why you guys are like, man, the overlay for Storybook Brawl would be so useful, and, you know, Magic is way better to view with it. Here, we'll briefly switch over to the Mist perspective. So this is the other side of this. And the delays are a little offset here, but that's okay. He has Vigilance, no lifelink, yeah. The Mist is holding a field trip, which doesn't really do a lot at this point. That may explain the more passive attacks. But here's the attack coming in. I think Mist has got it still, right? Because of the menace on the Hive Tyrant. Yeah, these blocks don't work. So maybe the lifelink from Aura would have done something. That would have been only one blocker. So we'd still have double blocked that. We'd have chump blocked this one. Taken 2, 3, 4, 5. I think Aura buys Tranel another turn, but I don't know that he can actually do anything with it. All right, so here we go into the sideboard for the Mist, and you can see his list here. This is what he's working with. It is one of his swamps that's up for Ante, I believe. Let me confirm that. Yeah, it's one of the swamps. So losing your basic lands, kind of a big deal in this because they're limited on how many they can play. You only get 6 of each. Yeah, I think Aura may have given Tranel another turn, but I'm not entirely sure that he could have done anything with it. A lot of sideboard options here. And the colors people are playing may change some depending on the basics that are taken. It's also really interesting to me now that I think about it. Like if you've got some really good cards, you start them in the sideboard so they can't go up for ante. That's weird. Yeah, some of these decks look way better than you would expect. Lash of Malice is 1. Quandrix Campus is 40. Done. 3 rounds today, 4 rounds next week, and then a single elimination tournament. I'm going to swap us back over to Tranel so you can see a little bit of what he's working with. He's already sideboarded and done. He's waiting to go back. Okay, fair enough. Presumably does not want to lose that Bloodseeker. Both of these decks are very good. Honestly, all of the deck lists that I got submitted were quite good. Well, so the tournament structure we can discuss a little bit here. You're going to play round robin, and every player will eventually play everybody, maybe even a couple times, and that has nothing to do with standings going into the final bracket. The final bracket's going to be single elimination. Ooh, here's an opener with no white. We've really had some mana trouble with the Mist. Yeah, I think you're right, Dave. I don't think you should be doing that. It was fun to think about, though. Oh, white right off the top. That's got to be a relief. We can foretell our 2/3 Death Touch Flyer. Funny to have 3 lands and not be able to do much with it, but we can get the guess going. We've also got the Reaper to come out in the future, but we could potentially combo that and double spell later. So I like this development. Unless you think the Reaper is going to just do that much damage. Oh man, I forgot about Roper. What a house. And a Smite the Monstrous to kill it if we need to. And Timber is electing to do exactly that. Which does use all your mana, and it is something that probably needs to die, so I think I can respect that. Draugr Necromancer can be a scary card if you've got snow-covered mana. Timber is firing off more and more removal. Which is interesting. You've kind of got to decide at this spot, are you the beatdown or not? Does that have to go, or is that something you'd like to go? Could you answer it with the Reaper? And it's a fair question. There's also the issue of the Draugr Necromancer. Unless I'm mistaken, did his game bug out? Perhaps. Let's go from the Mist perspective. Yeah, he's trying to get back in, it looks like. Ideally, he can get back in. It's kind of unfortunate. Still staying calm. Like, props to Timber. He managed to get back in and do it. Well done. We'll continue watching from the Mist perspective for now. As I was saying, unless I'm mistaken, the Necromancer still exiles things when it kills them. And there is a basically Gravedigger in Tranel's deck. Yeah, it exiles it instead. So like, if Mist is actually able to get to his one snow-covered land, this would be kind of a big deal for him. I was seeing if he had the extension overlay set up. It doesn't look like he does, but that's okay. So this is exiled. We know that Tranel has basically a Gravedigger going and can't get it. And he doesn't need snow-covered mana to cast this. It's just that you can use snow-covered as any color. So Mist can just kill stuff and replay it if it's black in color. Yeah, I think Mist is basically going to run away with this in just a minute. He's also sitting here with the Turnt Timber aesthetic. Like, this is his game to lose. And he's going to get a quality 2-drop for his deck if he wins it. He can cash in that Disciple if he wants to, but like, this is just great. Remember how good Timber aesthetic was? So good. All right, if you would let him know what card he can add to his pool, Mac, that would be swell. You can do that publicly. We've already got a good attack with the aesthetic. Midnight Ambush is a little harder to enable, eh? I'm wondering if you're supposed to Baleful Mastery that, but I do like the Disciple here. He's going to be very interested in that swamp. That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Sadly, we don't have the double black for Baleful Mastery. I think you have to cast... Gosh, I don't remember all these old cards. Kind of funny. Don't you have to pay an extra black or they draw a card or something? No, you don't. You cast it for 4, or you can cast it for 2 and they draw a card. Now I remember. These decks are a lot more streamlined than I anticipated. My guess is that Tranel is going to use this Sigarda's imprisonment to get rid of this Necromancer once and for all, because it's a problem. It's going to cash in a land. I can respect that. Gargantua? Look at the synergy. He's got a Gargantua and an Elderfang Disciple. Mist deck is scary. Like, I'm legitimately terrified of this thing. I had not thought about what a great exploit target Elderfang Disciple would be. Holy crap. I think I just go for it here. Play it, sacrifice the Disciple, swing with the 5/4, close this bloody game out. Maybe he's thinking it's better for them not to know that they're not going to have a board after this block, which I can respect this too. This is probably better than the line I was suggesting. Because he's got the option here if he wants to of using Midnight Ambush as a combat trick to clear this. Either way, this Gargantua was absolutely terrifying. And he is able to activate this Mirror Lake, but it takes some interesting mana shenanigans to work. There's the Restless Bloodseeker, and that is the card that Tranel will lose if he loses this match. I feel like Mist has to be able to close this out pretty quickly. We've got Bergstrider, Ambush, and Baleful Mastery. I want to know what Tranel's working with on the other side, and I can find that out. Bloop will switch right back over. We've got an Orator and the Pillar Drop Warden from earlier. We knew about this. This is a scary attack. You double block this? I'd be a little nervous too. I just want to keep bouncing back and forth and see the two perspectives. I do think the resolution is a little bit better on the Mist stream, so I'm going to watch here because it's a little easier to read the cards. Okay. He used the Lityara Mirror Lake to make another one. This is insane. And I don't see how the Mist is not going to win this game. This looks incredibly strong for him. Got an Infused with Fatality too. That's just stupid. And he's got this wrapped up right now just with the removal spells. Dunzo! Congratulations, Mist. Well played. So, that means that the Mist is going to collect one Restless Bloodseeker from Timber Tranel. Both will still be playing, but their decks are going to need to be adjusted. All right, we're here for round 2. We have the Mana Leak versus Tranel. We saw Tranel in round 1. He lost a Restless Bloodseeker and had to reconfigure his deck. Now he has up for Ante a Celestial Unicorn. The Mana Leak has a really good Gruul deck with a light blue splash. He lost a dual land in round 1 and has a red dragon up for Ante here. He does not want to lose this round. This is a pretty good opener for the Mana Leak. We've got a tap land into the Herbalist if we draw more lands, or we could lead with the Volley Veteran if we just want to get going, plus a removal spell. Looks like he wants to get aggressive first, can respect that. If there's another land on top, he can get this Aesthetic down next turn and just try to like close this out quickly. If there's not, he's still got the option to use the Moonrager Slash in an attack to maybe get this guest out of the way if he's concerned about it. Curse of Surveillance, a big part of his game plan, that is the blue splash. You can see John clicking the candles, playing the mini game that we've all played, to be fair. It's obviously a very good race for the Mana Lake. But we've got an Arrogant Outlaw that is getting snap burned because I think the Mana Leak wants to be in a position to top deck a land and slam one of these 5-drops. It's not what happened, but a 3-1 ain't bad. Activating a blood token for Tranel, getting some life, discarding a land. We know Tranel has a few red cards in his deck. There's a dual land, which is helping him splash some of those red cards. And here's Aura, the Giant Cleric. Quickly looking to see if there's any clerics in the graveyard. There are not. The Mana Leak is desperately searching for his 5th land, and instead has drawn an Immolation. He likes to swing team post-combat Immolation. I respect it. And these are the most brutal blocks you could possibly get from the opponent, but Aura has to go. Now, the Mana Leak can still catch up if he can hit a land and get this curse going. But if he doesn't get it soon, this may be out of grasp for him. Here's one of the red splashes. It's the Markov Waltzer. And this is allowing Tranel to take more aggressive line. Now we have format-defining All-Star Bramble Armor equipped to an Armory Veteran. making for a 4-3 menace. The Mana Leak's still in this game, but he's got to hit that land. Now, based on a land being discarded earlier from Tranel, there's a possibility that he's flooding out. So if we can dodge a few more cards, we might be in a position to do something. But a Silver Quill Pledge Mage and a Gold Maul Champion, not looking so great. We've got to go back on blocks, which is not what you want to be doing with your Menace creature. Oh god, here's card draw for Tranel, plus Spellcraft on the Pledge Mage. Things are going to the air quickly. We may even see a boasted Gold Maul Champion just close this game out right now. Losing that Red Dragon is really going to hurt the Mana Leak stack. I don't think he wants to lose this game. As we're clicking the candles, he's thinking about how many lands he put in this deck. Was it enough? Spoiler alert, it was enough. Sometimes magic gets you. Got some thought going over there for Tranel, which is fine. Take your time when you're in a position like this. This would be a big win for him. The red in his pool was not bad, and winning the Red Dragon might open up an entirely different build for him. See a blood token, discarding a mountain. Not surprised to see activation of air damage. Chonk, chonk. Here we go. Not a land, but it is a Crush the Weak. The question is, how weak is it his opponent? And the answer is not weak enough. John's going to the sideboard, instantly resubmitting. And to be fair, the issue there was not with any of the cards that he was playing. It was just with needing to hit that fifth land and not getting there. Difficult to do on a mulligan. John's deck is actually really good. All right, on the play, missing a color, but we have a 2-drop and the Bramble Armor. Once again, though, he's just going to need to hit these land drops and he's in business. He can be at up to 4 mana next turn. So I think the 5th land he's going to be really happy about. We see a card Foretold. Question here of if you attack or play the extra land. John's electing to get the attack and damage in. We know from previous games that that Foretold card is likely the 2/3 flying Death Touch. An Intrepid Outrider for the Mana Leak. I like the attack and I like the block. Nice and bold. All 3 colors for Tranel. There is the Vengeful Reaper, which we knew about. Some life gain, a 2/3 Death Touch flyer attacking. And we've got some 5 mana 5/5 action going on over here for the Mana Leak. We take a swing. We do not have enough power to get to adventure into the dungeon yet, but we will next turn. Big, heavy, beefy hitters here for John. We've got a 5/4 into a 5/5. Looks like we're thinking about which creature to remove, and we were. There's a Sigarda's Imprisonment on the aesthetic, and another swing in with the Death Toucher. There's sadly no week to crush, as it is only Thursday, and you can only crush the week on Friday. But still decent attacks for the Mana Leak. Is there a combat trick here? There is. That strike was particularly subtle. And that's going to cost us our Valkyrie. Things are starting to look very grim for the Mana Leak. A Witherbloom Pledge Mage on the other side is particularly brutal. Oh, we're going to need Curse of Surveillance to do a lot of work here, and I'm not sure that it's capable of doing that much work. The Mana Leak decides his best shot is probably trading off the ground creatures. Tranel bites. The Mana Leak will be drawing 2 cards a turn from now on, but he's also facing 5 damage in the air. The mountain has to help. He could combo those to get rid of the Reaper, which starts to solve some of his problems. down to 7, but we could still use Vanquish the Weak. Or excuse me, Crush the Weak, not Vanquish the Weak, plus Immolation to get something going if we'd hit another red source, which we didn't. I might consider foretelling it here, but I don't know what sort of instance the Mana Leak has in his deck. So he may be looking for something very specific. I know we've been looking for that for a while. I really like his build. Okay, this is not so bad because we could potentially get that with Crush the Weak as well. This is game 2. If the Mana Leak loses this one, and it looks like he's decided he's not winning it. That's a red dragon out of the pool for the Mana Leak. That's going to hurt. That one's going to really hurt. All right, here we go for round 3, the final round of the day. We have Neek versus Big Mac. Big Mac has a Sporeback Wolf up for Ante, and Neek has a Spectre up for Ante. Big Mac has a nice Abzan deck with a good curve of creatures and removal, and Neek has a pretty darn good suite of removal in his red-black deck with a little bit of blue for this practical research, and we're watching from Neek's perspective. We see Mac start with a Cleric class into the Sporeback Wolf. Should he lose, that is the wolf that will be gone, and we see Neek really needing some more mana and not having it. That was quite the nice draw. We're now able to play either the Ignis or the Gluttonous Guest, and all of a sudden be insta-stable. There's all 3 colors for Mac. He could activate Cleric class here. There is a decent amount of life gain in his deck as well, with things like Celestial Unicorn and a few other payoffs. That's been a consistent enough theme that with 6 packs from Standard, you can find that. The Sawblade Slinger has been very good for him in previous matchups. It's nabbing a clue token here. Neek looks unfazed. Is able to run out his Ignis, which is a 2/2 that could conceivably ramp you some. And we see he's got some good stuff here. That card that you can't read, I believe, is the one that lets you sacrifice a creature to draw 2 cards. We see a Skycleave Relic come down for Mac. Arrogant Outlaw, the draw for Neek. He may want to send in the Ignis. He may just want to get the colorless mana and start casting some stuff. And he's electing to use it just to get rid of this. It leaves him in the awkward spot of having to discard the hand size if he doesn't hit another land. So if we're in Neek's shoes here, we really want that land. But Mac has a Glorious Sunrise. So we're really going to need that land pretty damn quick if we're Neek, or we may just get buried here in game 1. Sulphurous Mire is the draw, which is a land and good. We're going to try to coward check and get some value for this Arrogant Outlaw, and it works. I think it's very reasonable not to block that for Mac, but that's exactly what Neek wanted. It was a free attack. Let's make it and see if the Outlaw can come down and gain us a little bit of life. Worth noting that Glorious Sunrise is a way to gain life, so we can just start plugging counters away on some of our creatures, plus Guiding Voice to go get Expanded Anatomy. There is some shenanigans happening here. All of a sudden that wolf is a 4/6 swinging in, and we're at 21. This is going to be difficult to race. Neek's drawn his 5th mana. We could potentially exile that with Feed the Serpent. He's electing to wait to see if we'll put even more counters on it, which I think makes sense. Yeah, I think the life game would have been better there, potentially. Now we can draw cards, and in response to that, we can Feed the Serpent, and there are no cards drawn. So Neek's managed to get himself a 2-for-1, which is good. But any creature is pretty dang good on the other side for Mac. Now that Neek's tapped out, we could potentially just put the counters on this after going to fetch another land and have decent blockers. This is a pretty good turn sequence for Mac, but Neek still has a ton of cards in hand, including a Biblioplex assistant to go get back the Feed the Serpent. I don't believe there's anything in the graveyard. Yeah, you've got to get that feed. We could also potentially do block and sack shenanigans if we decide to. This has turned into a pretty good back and forth game now. Got a 6/6. Gain life. Put a counter on your Null Hunter. Draw a card from your Cleric class. Look at these cards from different sets interacting well together and starting to do things. I do think the life gain might have been more practical there, but it looks like Mac wants the trample to try to force this closed. It does look a bit like a great Chaos Draft deck, Renan. Good call. So we've got Feed the Serpent back, but there's kind of too many things that we need to kill. And they can all have trample. Yeah, Nick has looked at this, decided he's had enough, and we're getting out of here. Interesting to note, if that Village Rites had been the Cathartic Pyre that he lost in the last round due to Ante, this game plays out very differently. Going through our sideboards options, considering what we can bring in, what we can do. I do see some interesting green cards in Nick's sideboard, so it's entirely possible that next week he's going to bring us a green deck. Because again, it's important to remember the players can change their decks however they want between weeks as long as they're keeping the same cards there. Presumably he won a swamp and the mountains, because otherwise he is not doing this right. Which is something that can happen with our test run. Stop it. Did you add in too many extra mountains, Neek? Because remember, you're only supposed to have 6 of each basic. Yeah, you couldn't have actually won a swamp and 2 mountains yet. Yeah, I think he just missed up when he was rebuilding the deck. So he can have the 7 swamps because he did get 7 swamps. He's siding into green. That's a mad lad. I like it. I was saying we might see green from him next week. Little did I know we're going to see green from him right now. Oh, you couldn't find the forests. Okay, yeah, you've got to have them in the sideboard. Oh, yeah, that's unfortunate. Okay, if you guys haven't played, this is the sort of thing we're dealing with. He's not going to have enough time. I just hope he doesn't submit done, so he'll get to play again. It's important to have your whole pool in here and have all of your lands imported as well, so that if you want to sideboard, you can do this. This is incredibly frustrating. It happened to me the first time I played in the Sweatsuit Invitational. I'm sorry that it's getting you here. You want your whole pool in your sideboard so that you can swap them in and out. And make sure we have the land counts correct. Now, the good news is for Neek, he still gets to keep that deck that he'd submitted. So we're not playing some abomination with green cards and no green mana. And this doesn't look like a terrible opener for him. The Shieldmate from Mac is a little scary, but the 1/4 handles that quite nicely. Got a Recluse. I remember liking that card quite a bit back in the day. A Skullport Merchant, not too bad, is the draw for Neek this turn. Getting the Grinning Ignis out, which he can potentially use to cast a bunch of things next turn. Dualcraft Trainer is terrifying, especially when it comes down with automatic Coven. Nick's incentivized to block at least one thing here, and he's electing to block two, which I like. We don't have removal in hand. We've got value if we can get to the late game. Let's just make sure we don't die to this stuff. Nick deciding he really needs to find that blue land or some action, and we can afford to discard a Swamp. We've got a Skillport Merchant, which is functionally going to be a 1/4 draw a card unless we want to use that token to cast a Practical Research. That was a good attack. I think it was the right call, especially from this perspective. I assumed when you made it, Mac, that you had another way to enable Coven immediately for the next turn. I think I like going for the Practical Research next turn, but I'm kind of scared here. Because we need to get some stuff going. Oh, Lord, you were never drawing lands, huh? Just never drawing lands, ever. I think you've got to get rid of the Introduction to Annihilation here. That's rough. But at least you're 4 deeper, because good news, you were not ever drawing any more lands. We're hoping to get stable here with the Ruffian, but that's a bit too much. And Neek throws in the towel. The winner is Mac, and it looks like he is getting a Spectre of the Finns from Neek. I suppose that's appropriate as Neek is in Finland, so that is where the Spectres would come from. And of course, a big thank you to my patrons. Paul, Punk, Hero, Joe, Jesse, Jacob, Scott, Basti, Rich, Michael, Brandon, and John. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.